Welcome to the first Success in Business of 2022. You are the leader. Our presenter is Stephani Smith, the founder and CEO of both Stephani and Company Consulting, a small and large business and manufacturing consulting firm, and the Local Reserve, a digital media and production company. Stephani is also the business and entrepreneurship professor at Southeastern Community College and for the Goldman Sachs 10K Small Business Initiative, where she has the honor of teaching students and current business owners how to start and grow a business. Please welcome Stephani Smith.
Thank you, Cindy. Hello, everyone. This has been first of all, a great honor to be a part of the Chamber's Success in Business series. I really appreciate the Greater Burlington Partnership and the Chamber giving me this opportunity today to be with all of you. But today will be fun. Today will be fun, encouraging, and quite intriguing as we take a deep dive into who we really are as a leader. My name is Stephani Smith, and I am the owner and founder of Stephani and Company Consulting and also the Local Reserve. God has purposely positioned me to serve my community, especially Southeast Iowa, to help business owners capitalize on opportunities, grow their business, and continue to keep America great. So we serve the entire entrepreneurial ecosystem from small business to large business, and most recently we have diversified into the manufacturing industry. We are very excited about this diversification as it has given us the ability to expand our service offerings into new fields. I do want to note, though, that we recently acquired a special niche, and her name is Tammy Dean. Tammy is one of only a few people in the state of Iowa that is professionally certified to train and certify any and all manufacturing workforce and administration. So we are very blessed to have her a part of this team and look forward to the future opportunities with that. But with that being said, at Stephani and Company Consulting and the Local Reserve, our team strategy has always been and will always be with our clients tailored around what I like to call actionable knowledge and strategy, with actionable being the key word. So here are a few examples of solution-based services that we offer that were tailored specifically to previous individual needs, just so that you have an idea of our services. So the number one concern when I ask all of my clients, these are some of the responses that I have gotten from them, and this is what we've helped them with. They've said, I need help moving the company to new heights. I need help growing the business and becoming more profitable. I just need personal growth. I need insight into my financials, the ability to serve more clients, marketing, advertising help. I just need some fresh knowledge, some management skills. I need help diversifying my organization. And my favorite, finding the next business path to make the company not just successful, but extremely successful. That was a fun one. So on to what we are all on here to hear about and hopefully apply in our own business situations. So I wanted to let you know, as research concludes, a company's greatest asset is their team of employees. It's all about leading your team to victory. You are here today, each and every one of you, because you have made a personal and professional commitment to improve your effectiveness as a leader. My hope is that you will apply the knowledge learned today and report back to me in a month to let me know how many times one of your employees gives you that look that speaks, someone finally understands me. And I say that with a smile and a laugh because I've heard it so many times from past clients that said, I took this information, I took it back to the company, I did exactly what I learned, and it has just been an eye-opener. It's just been a 180 with my employees, and now I finally get it, and they get me, and we get along great. So my hopes are that the same things will happen to you and that you'll let me know about it. Many business owners come to realize that the most important resource when growing their business is their people. So regardless of the number of employees, each of them is leading somebody, and as your business grows, they will need to lead more in the future. As a business owner, CEO, supervisor, or manager, you have an important leadership role to play in not only inspiring your employees, but motivating them as well, so that you can achieve your business growth together as a team, a cohesive team. Doing that is not always easy. But having a better understanding of your own leadership style, in other words, how will you lead? How will you make your team more successful at achieving the vision you have for your business? So, how do you define leadership? Here's how I would define leadership: how someone interacts with others to engage, influence, inspire, motivate, all of these things to help them grow the business. Now, on the flip side of the coin, how would you define leadership in business? The business owners or managers' interactions within the company, but applies also, and this is what I want you to touch on and not forget, it's not just your employees, because you engage and influence people every day outside the company as well, like all of your stakeholders. Those are people like your customers, suppliers, funders, and even prospective employees. Let's take a look at this next slide. Many business owners and leaders have found it useful to have some type of a framework, or maybe more than one, for understanding how people see them, how they typically interact with others, and how their employees interact with each other. As the business owner, you are the leadership of your company. It is the day-to-day interactions that influence and motivate those around us to contribute to profitability and sustainable growth. Today, we will be exploring your style and also working to begin to understand others' styles. It's all about adapting, coping, and complementing different styles. And again, I will say, it's all about adapting, coping, and complementing the different styles. Knowing how to empower your employees will spark motivation. And when employees are motivated, guess what? They're productive. And when they are productive, the company grows. But it takes a leader to drive the team towards your company's vision. So, leadership is the catalyst for growth. Being an effective leader takes practice, okay? I'm not going to lie. I've been working on it for over 20 some years, and I'm still working on it, okay? So leadership takes practice. But more importantly, it's about identifying our personal value system and enhancing our awareness of the factors that influence others and motivates them to help grow the business. So, finding the key that unlocks the door to productivity is vital for growth. So, as you see here, If employees are empowered, then they're motivated. If they're motivated, they are productive. And if they're productive, the company grows. So now let's take a look at some of our learning objectives for today. Now, again, learning objectives are statements that we want to be able to understand so that we can apply them. So at the end of the training today, in hopes that each and every one of you will be able to answer each one of these questions and feel 100% confident in applying them in your business. So what do we want to achieve from our time together? We want to improve your effectiveness as the leader. We want to understand the factors that influence your leadership style. We want to identify your personal value system. And I put this in there, your personal value system will directly correlate with your mission and your vision of your business, because that's what it is. When you create your mission and vision, it's created through your intrinsic value system. What are your morals and values? Why did you start the business? Why are you doing what you're doing? And then most importantly, learning that organizational culture needs to be directly aligned with your growth goals. So what is your style? And just to let you know, it's not the way you dress or the way you do your hair, okay? It's internal and external together. So as you know in your life and work experience, people tend to behave and in certain repeatable patterns. These patterns tend to be seen by others as our MO, which is the way he or she is, or more simply put, our style. Now, you will hear me use the word style several times throughout our time today. Each time you do, I want you to be thinking about your style every time you hear that word. At work, these predictable patterns shape how others respond to us. It also shapes what they will and won't do for us and how they feel about us. Style is our shorthand for these repeatable and predictable patterns. Now, here's the question of the day. Why is understanding our style essential in our approach to management? As the business owner, you are the leader of your company. So let's kick things off with the leadership style exercise. Before today's training, Dustin was kind enough to send out a few exercises and worksheets to all of you. And one of them should have been just a graph of columns and rows with numbers and letters at the bottom. So if you were able to print that off, you can utilize that worksheet for our exercise today. If for some reason you're not able to or can't find that, just grab a piece of paper. You can go over this with us. If you just want to number out 18 different rows and 4 columns, that should work as well. Okay, so we're going to go over the exercise together. Ultimately, you'll be able to use the information in this exercise to become more of an effective leader. Okay, so let's get started. In this exercise, you are given 18 pairs of statements, and then you are asked to choose the statement that most accurately expresses how others see you. Now, again, I'm going to repeat that because that's the most important part of this exercise. This is where people can kind of get confused when they fill this out. It's not how you view yourself. It's how others see you. And again, it's how others see you. So for each question, there are 2 responses. I want you to read the 2 responses and then put an X through the circle that is in line with the answer that you feel most closely describes how others see you. So for instance, question 1, the 2 statements. Are you more likely to lean backward when stating opinions? Or are you more likely to be erect or lean forward when stating your opinions? Now, again, this is how others view you. So in my opinion, for myself, I am more likely to lean backwards when stating opinions. So I'm going to put an X in the circle that corresponds with that statement. Question 2, are you more likely to use your hands when talking, or are you less likely to use your hands when talking? Well, for those of you that know me, I talk more with my hands than I do with my mouth. So I would put an X in the circle that corresponds with more use of hands when talking. And I get told that a lot, especially from my students. So go through all 18 statements and put an X in the circle that corresponds with how you feel other people or your employees view you. So as you are filling this out, if you have any questions, remember there is the chat box. And I want you to utilize the chat box anytime you have a question or you're confused about something or you have a comment or an opinion. Please just put it right there in the chat and we will be able to see that and hopefully respond as quickly as we can. Let's take about 3 to 4 minutes to fill this out. When you get done filling it out, after you've answered all 18 questions, you should have 18 X's. When you finish, you are going to count the number of X's in each one of the columns. So again, there's 4 columns. So count the X's in each column and add that number in the total scores at the bottom, which should look like this as an example. If you look at my slide. Is there a certain button I need to hit to be able to see that, Stephen? Okay, sorry everyone. I just had a little trouble finding the chat box, but I did find it now. And I do see a big hello from Brenda. Thank you. Hello to you too. I have Terry, Stephen, I have Terry that's asking if you could please send her the form. Thank you. Okay, again, after you've added up all your X's in each column, put the total number of X's in the row that says total scores. We'll take about another minute to let people finish up. And again, if you've just jumped on, remember, this is how others perceive you. So when you're asking yourself each set of questions, be thinking about how your customers, suppliers, employees, even family members, friends, how do they perceive you? This is going to help us narrow down your leadership style. And again, if you have any questions, please submit them to the chat box. This is my favorite part of the whole training exercise, is just to see all the different leadership styles. And typically when I do this in person, it's funny because I already know, just from talking to people for 5 minutes, I can already peg your leadership style. And again, it's not because I have some special gift. It's just because I've been doing this for so long that it's become a knack. And the more that you do it yourself, the easier it will get. And and the funny part about it is I'll just be out in the public no matter where I'm at. And if it's somebody that I'm checking out with at Casey's, or I'm grocery shopping, or whatever it is, within the first 30 seconds, I'm sitting there going to myself, I know their leadership style. That's what their leadership style is. I wonder if they know. So, and I promise you, you will do the same. Okay, so now I think hopefully everyone's had enough time to fill this out. And again, added up all of their X's in each one of the columns. Okay, and as you see in my example, hold on just one second. Stephen, were you able to see all 18, or do I need to move my Excel sheet over? Okay, so what about now? Okay, sorry about that, everyone. I had the wrong sheet pulled up, so you're probably wondering where are the rest of the statements. There we go. So I'll just give you about another minute. Terry, we do not have access to the form at this time right now during the presentation, but I will be more than happy to send it to you after the presentation. And if you need me to send you the leadership style, the statements, I can do that as well so that you're able to fill that out and then use it with your employees. Okay, so again, let me repeat myself again, my apologies. But as you can see in my example, the column totals are 7, 2, 6, and 3 were mine that I used. And so what you're going to do is you're going to circle, you're going to look at the first two columns, and you're going to circle the largest number in the first two columns. So in my column, it was, in the L column, it was 7, and in the R column, it was 2, so I circle 7. Let's go to the slide. There we go. Okay, I'm sorry, 6. So I circled 6. In the last two columns, you're going to circle the largest number in the last two columns. So mine was 7, and so I'm going to circle 7. Then there is a two-letter combination. So you're going to circle the letter that's underneath your largest numbers in your two columns. So I circled L and I circled A. Again, those are your two-letter combinations. So you're either going to have LA, LB, RA, or RB. These will identify your leadership style. Okay. So now that we have identified our own unique leadership style, let's take a look at what that really means. Okay, so what does this grid right here that I pulled up, what does it represent? Research in many different areas and on many different populations tells us that behavioral characteristics can be grouped together into 4 major categories called styles, and that people with similar styles tend to exhibit specific patterns of behavior. These dimensions, as you see here, are the degree to which people are more or less assertive and the degree to which they are more or less responsive to the people around them. So what do these two terms actually mean in regards to behavioral style? Well, let's break them down. Okay, assertiveness refers to the degree to which a person holds opinions about issues and attempts to dominate or control situations by directing the thoughts and actions of others. Now, as I'm reading these, before I get to responsiveness, I want you to look on here and you'll see in what quadrant you fall into, what your style falls into. So if you were in LA, you would be left and above. If you were an RA, that refers to right and above, and so forth. That is the quadrant that you fall into. So you can see if in your quadrant, so say for instance, I myself am a RB, so I'm right and below. So I am more assertive and more responsive. But someone that falls in the RA is less responsive, but more assertive, and so forth. Again, assertiveness is someone that holds opinions about issues and attempts to dominate or control situations by directing the thoughts and actions of others. Now, responsiveness, on the other hand, points to the level of feelings and social ability an individual openly displays. But let's break that down a little further. because what do those actually translate into? They translate into the 4 types of behavioral styles that each one of you have fallen into. These 4 styles have been labeled driver, expressive, analytical, and amiables. All people share these 4 styles at varying degrees of intensity. This is probably why some of you saw a little difference between some or all of your totals, because I always get to where people say, gosh, my totals were like 7, 6, and 5 and 4. They were really close. And other people say, oh my goodness, I was a 7 and a 1 and a 6 and a 2, totally far apart. There's a reason for that, because there is a little bit of overlap of styles sometimes. Now, for myself, if those of you that don't know me, but those that do know that I am definitely an expressive, or I've been told. So I'm very loud. I'm usually like in your face, very expressive with emotions. And I tend to be somewhat opinionated and confrontational, I've been told. Those are characteristics of expressives. Now we'll get into the other characteristics so that you can see the difference between them. Okay, so again, you might have seen a little bit of overlap with your totals, but we are all a mix of styles. And despite our tendency to operate in one of these ways, we do use different styles in different situations. So keep that in mind. So for example, an amiable. An amiable is someone that is very quiet and keeps to themselves. A driver is a little more authoritative, task-oriented, gets things done. And then we have our analyticals that somewhat are solution-based and can't overthink things, though. I'm a little bit of an expressive and a driver. I'm an expressive most of the time, but under stress, I can become a driver. So again, we see how they overlap or can overlap. Okay, so what are the typical behaviors of people with your styles? Because this is what this is all about. So now that you know what quadrant you fall into and which one of these is your style, you're either an expressive, driver, analytical, or an amiable. What are the typical behaviors? Because they're different with each one of the styles, and you need to understand what your characteristics or behaviors are of your style that we have pegged today. But you also need to know what the characteristics and behaviors are of the other styles so that we can, like I said earlier, we can adapt and we can cope and we can complement other people's style that is different than ours. Now, here is the part we don't always like to hear. And that is how our style shifts, again, when we are under stress or when we're not under stress, okay? But let's take a look at first. I want to go through every single style. I want to show you the characteristics and behaviors of each one of the styles. Now, I'm going to have some of you that are going to go, oh my gosh, yes, that's me, yes. And others might say, well, I'm an expressive, but I do that and I do that, but I don't think I do that. And that's normal. There are 100 million different types of characteristics for each one of the styles. This is just a few that I have named on some of these slides to give you an idea. So expressives, again, like myself, so any of you that fell into that category, you tend to be more assertive and more responsive. You're more flamboyant, high energy, enthusiasm, high emotion. You emphasize vision and have big ideas. You love to interact with others. And you're the type that you're going to act first and think later. But sometimes we can be poor at planning and goal setting because we get into too big of a hurry. And we can oversell and under-instruct. And we tend to be quick-tempered. Not myself, but others. Drivers. Drivers are more assertive, but less responsive to others. They're strong goal results oriented. They're ambitious and risk-taking. They're decisive, fast, but sometimes they can be impatient and they don't always listen well. They can overstep authority and they can become autocratic. And if you don't know, autocratic means more like a dictator. They can become autocratic and incur hostility and can squelch initiative in others because of their drive, because they're kind of a taskmaster at times. Amiables. If you are an amiable, if that's your leadership style, amiables are less assertive, but more responsive to others. They're a great team player. They're loyal and dependable. They build relationships easily. They focus on others. They're patient and easygoing, but sometimes they can be forthcoming or indecisive. If opinion will cause conflict. They do not like conflict. They take criticism as personal affront. So they're not outwardly offended. It's more of an internal thing when they're offended. They usually don't say a whole lot and they keep things to themselves. I always like to say the best way for me to explain an amiable is I always think about a group of people sitting around in a circle, sitting Indian style, holding hands, singing Kumbaya as they're all smiling and looking at each other. Last but not least, analyticals. This is the last leadership style. So for those of you that are analytical, you're less assertive and less responsive to others. You're task-oriented, you're precise, and attentive to detail. You prefer to work with procedures and systems. You're motivated by the right way to proceed. But sometimes you agonize over decision. You can become overwhelmed with detail. You can be highly critical, and you can become emotionally detached from the group, meaning you like to work more independent. Okay, now that we've looked at characteristics of every single leadership style, we now want to switch gears a little bit, and I want you to think about which of these behaviors, so think about your own leadership style, which of these behaviors in your style help the growth of your company? And I'm asking you this because, as I put here, your style is connected with your growth opportunities. Again, your style is directly aligned with or correlates with the growth opportunities. Now, I want you to think about which of these behaviors in your leadership style inhibit the growth of your company. So which of them inhibit opportunities that come your way? Last but not least, like I said before, the one thing we don't like to talk about is how does your behavior change when you are under stress? Research says about how our styles are perceived by others when we are feeling stress is self-awareness. Self-awareness is key in how you might need to manage this carefully when under stress. We know that in the past, year and a half, and I don't like to use the word anymore, COVID. So I always just make my students in my class just say C instead of saying COVID. But we know we've all been under a lot of stress and a lot of challenges in our business this past year and a half. But how did you handle the stress, both personally and professionally? Were you able to avoid your behavior from shifting to stress-induced expressions? How did you support your people despite navigating around stressors? Guess what? Here's the good news. These can all be avoided with enhanced awareness and self-evaluation, but it does take practice. So let's look at how each one of your leadership styles changes or shifts during stressful situations. Expressives, you tend to become more attacking. Drivers, you tend to become more of a dictator. Those of you that are analytical, you tend to avoid people. You tend to avoid the group. You tend to avoid people. You just kind of want to hide away by yourself. Amiables, you actually become more accommodating because you're that helper. You're that person that wants to make everything better and wants to make everybody smile and be happy and calm the situation. So again, as long as you are aware of this and you're continually self-evaluating, this will help to avoid the stressors. And what does this all mean? And why is knowing your style and the other three styles important in business? And again, that's the key after all of this. What does this all mean, and why is knowing your style and the other three styles important in business? Because it's all about motivating your employees and those around you. That's what it's about. And I'm going to tell you something, if you don't know someone else's style and you don't really know them, it's pretty tough to know how to motivate them. It's really tough because we're all motivated by something different. Okay? And now you might say, well, why is motivation so important? I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier. It's all about motivating our employees so that they'll be productive. When an employee is productive, your company grows and everybody's happy. So once we understand other people's styles, we will be able to adapt, cope, and complement their different styles. This will spark motivation through the eyes of the beholder. I promise you. Again, this is where you're going to call me in about a month and go, oh my goodness, it was right in front of me the whole time. But unless we know it and practice it, it's hard to understand. So it comes down to this. I'll give you a great example. I had a client once that said there's one of her employees, and every time she walks up to talk to this employee just puts her head down immediately, won't make eye contact, doesn't respond, and becomes very unproductive. My client said, I'm so frustrated because I don't get it. Why does she do that? It drives me nuts. This has been going on for 2 years and we just don't get along. And she's an awesome employee when she wants to be, but I just can't take this anymore because I just don't understand it. Well, it was about a month, I guess, after this training, and she went back and did this whole leadership exercise with all of her employees. And after reflecting on her leadership style and everyone else's, she realized that specific employee was an amiable. And she was an expressive, which you can't get more of the opposite than that, okay? An amiable and expressive. Very opposite. But she realized that. And so she knew after looking at the characteristics and behaviors of an amiable, she was approaching that woman all wrong. So she says, I completely changed. So when I approached that person knowing she was an amiable, I lowered the tone of my voice. I kept my distance. I didn't get in her dance space. Okay. So I gave her space. I didn't put my arm on her shoulder. Instead of all of my hands moving around, I kept my hands down at my sides. I smiled. I gave her compliments, and I told her how much I appreciated what she does and how much of a team player that she is. And she said, Stephani, and she actually started to cry. She said, Stephani, do you know that her and I have become best friends now? And she's my most productive employee. And that's what it's all about. So the key takeaway again is everyone is motivated by something different. We just have to uncover what that is. Some people are motivated by money. Some people are motivated by a pat on the back. Some people are motivated by an award or a recognition of some sort. Maybe it's vacation time, or some people are just motivated by getting a new plant to put in their office. It all changes, especially with age. When we're younger, I know myself, I was motivated more by money and recognition. And then as I got older, it was more about time off and having that beautiful plant in my office or a gift card or something like that. So again, the question to you is, what motivates each and every one of you? So think about what motivates you. So if you're an expressive, what motivates you? If you're an amiable, what motivates you? Driver, analytical, what motivates you? Okay, so let's take a look at what does motivate us. Okay, so this was one of the worksheets that Dustin had emailed out to you beforehand if you had the chance to fill it out. If not, that's fine. You can fill it out on your own, but it just goes through and it helps you understand and kind of wrap your mind around what does really motivate you and what's a priority motivation. So I want you to look at the list of motivating factors. And if what really drives you is missing, you can always add it in down there in the box beside other. Then after you've gone through all of them, I want you to rank them, starting with 1 being your number 1 motivator, and rank them in terms of how important this factor is in motivating you. So is it making a good living, making money, doing the very best work, doing interesting work, being your own boss, being able to choose who you work with, having control over your work life, continuing a legacy, contributing to your community, or like, again, maybe it's something else. Again, we're all motivated by something different. But when you have the time, I want you to number them of how important each one of those factors is in motivating you. After you have done that, I want you to look at now, okay, go intrinsically. I want you to look at your core values and your fundamental beliefs, because we tend to set up our companies according to some very basic core values we have and that we hold, and our fundamental beliefs we have about people, about business, and about ourselves. So on this worksheet, I want you to please write down some of your very basic core values and beliefs. So what do you value? What do you value in people? What do you value in business? And then what do you believe to be true about human nature, about yourself, and about business? All of these things play a really big part in motivating yourself. We're motivated by what we believe in and what is important to us. Okay, now let's look at the second exercise that I have for you that's called Who Are the People That You Lead? So now that we have looked at the motivating factors for yourself and your leadership style and looked at the other leadership styles, let's now look at our employees. So consider all of the factors for your key employees. Think about who they are, why you value them, and why they value you. keeping in mind that each one of your key people have their own leadership style. They have their own motives. They have their own values and beliefs. And understanding what these are for each person on your team will help you become a better leader. If you know, for instance, my values and my beliefs and my morals and my leadership style, you're going to understand what motivates me. And that goes with each one of your employees. So this just gives you some time, again, to think about those key employees that you want to keep, okay, because they're the ones that are going to help you reach your vision, okay, and drive the company to reach your vision to grow the company. So I ask you to identify 1 to 3 of your key team members, and in a few words, focus on how they typically act at work. For example, one might be a team player or very energetic, while another strives to be perfect, but they stress easily. Then consider why each team member works for you. Simply meaning what motivates them. There's people out there that it's just because they feel like that the company is also their company, and that's what gets them out of bed every morning because they don't want to let you down. And they feel like that vision is also their vision. But it might be to somebody else that they like serving people. Because again, that's why God put us on this earth, is to serve people. And that might be their motivating factor. Again, you don't know this unless you figure out what their motives, values, and beliefs are in life. Okay? So once you fill this out, that will help you better understand that as well. Again, if you have questions on any of these, you can always ask in the chat room. Okay, last but not least, this is something that I want to emphasize, and I want to really emphasize number 2 and number 3 on here, the second and the third statement. Here's why. It's always good, don't get me wrong, to think about what you learned today about yourself as a leader, but you really need to write down what your strengths and weaknesses are. That's one thing with Stephani Consulting I go through with every client right in the beginning in your consultation is I do a SWOT analysis on you to figure out your strengths, weaknesses, and then what opportunities can come from your strengths and what threats will come from your weaknesses. This will help you become a better leader. But number 2 says, what steps should I take to develop myself as a leader in order to grow my organization and my business? So what are those? Is it that you need to find a business consultant? Or do you need to take a Toastmasters course? That's kind of up to you. But think about those things and what you need to add to your repertoire to help you grow as a leader. And then the third statement says, what metrics or how do you measure effectiveness? Are the things that you're putting in place to become a better leader, are they working? Are they not? They won't always work. It's kind of a hit and miss. It's kind of a trial and error. So you have to have some type of metrics in place to be able to measure the effectiveness of your methods. And are you growing as a leader and as a person? So what metrics will tell you if you're making progress towards your own personal goals? Now, keep in mind some of the metrics that you may choose to use may be tied to personal goals as being a healthy and happy person. The more healthy and happy you are, the easier it is for everyone to get along with you as well. Okay, so these can positively impact your leadership skills. So all in all, your ability as a leader will determine the venture's success or failure. So, in closing, I want to thank you. I want to thank my past. I want to thank my current And I want to thank my future extraordinary clients for your support and for trusting Stephani Company Consulting and the local reserve to lead you in the right direction, because serving you is the greatest honor of all. And we're here to help you with all of your business goals. So I would appreciate the opportunity to get to know each and every one of you and your business on a personal level. All consultations with my company are free. And along with the consultation, I also have a detailed plan of action that I give each and every one of you that is tailored specifically to your needs. So my contact information is right here on this last slide in front of you for your reference. Or I believe Dustin, when he emailed out the exercises and documents, you should have my email for the consulting business in front of you. But again, I would very much appreciate getting to know each and every one of you and helping you with whatever it is that I can to make your business successful. Like I said before, God put me in this position and my team to serve my fellow business owners and my fellow coworkers and my fellow Americans. So please give us the opportunity to show you what we can do for you, little, big, small. It really doesn't matter. It's all about actionable items that we want to partner with you on to see you smile and to see you succeed and move forward in your future endeavors. So thank you again, and God bless all of you for joining us today, and have a wonderful day.
Okay, since you're on.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and thank you all for being with us today. Be sure to register for the February program with John Kirshner of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We'll see you next time.